On that day, Amanda arrived in her hometown, and her mother was overjoyed at her daughter's visit. "Thank you, dear, for deciding to visit me," she said. Amanda wasn't exactly thrilled about the trip. She had long been persuading her mother to move to the city where all the conditions were available. "I don't understand why you refuse," the young woman insisted. However, Elena remained firm in her decision. She loved her native land, where she was born and raised. "I will never leave anywhere," she confidently replied, "even if I get seriously ill. I was born here, and here I will die." Amanda visited her mother whenever possible, but her demanding job at a large company required her constant presence. Rarely did she manage to take such long breaks. Now, Amanda was in the 8th month of pregnancy, yet she had to continue working. "I'm glad you could visit for a few days," she sighed, and her mother responded, "Fresh air is beneficial in your condition." Amanda's partner left immediately after hearing about the pregnancy, stating, "I don't need children. I want to live for myself." She didn't mourn over this decision. With sufficient finances and a stable business, she believed she could raise the child alone. Unexpectedly, Amanda began premature labor. Panicking, she asked her mother, "What should we do now? There are no decent doctors here." Elena, however, disagreed, exclaiming, "You're wrong." She immediately called for an ambulance, and the vehicle arrived directly at the small house. Such a surprise, what progress! They quickly reached the local maternity hospital. Amanda didn't have time to comprehend. At that moment, she only felt desperate fear. The pain wasn't as noticeable. She feared for the baby. What if she loses the child? She desperately wanted to be a mother. After all, she was already 30 years old, and time was running out. The delivery went well, and after feeding the baby, Amanda fell into a deep sleep to recover from the stress and pain. Upon waking up, she saw a nurse meticulously cleaning the room. Amanda was pleased with such care in a rural hospital. Her thoughts were far away. She didn't immediately realize her weakness. When the woman left the room, it struck her. "She looks just like him," echoed in her mind. It couldn't be a mere coincidence. She desperately wanted to find out everything. "As soon as I get home from the hospital, I'll look into this matter," she promised herself. The discharge didn't take long. In a few days, Amanda and her son were back home. Elena expressed relief. "I'm glad everything turned out well." While Amanda pondered her next steps, she thought, "I need to go to the city." However, she couldn't forget her promise. The conflicting feelings overwhelmed the young woman. Asking her mother to take care of the baby was foolish. How could she explain her situation, especially when she had been away from her hometown for so long and had almost no friends? Amanda called Derek, who had always helped her in difficult situations. He had been working in the police force for years, and though he had once been attractive to her, he was too poor at the time. "Glad to hear from you," he said, surprised by Amanda's call. "Did something happen?" she asked, and he replied, "I doubt you'd call me just like that." "Come to the city and we'll figure it out," Derek suggested after hearing Amanda's story. 3 days later, she was back in her apartment. Unable to find a nanny, she hadn't arranged for one since the baby arrived earlier than expected, and she hadn't planned to give birth in her hometown. "I need to call the agency," she thought, considering it an important task. Derek arrived the next day, always punctual. He said you would find out everything he could, and kept their conversation focused on the matter at hand. After 2 weeks, Derek called. "I found out what you're interested in," he said concisely. Amanda couldn't delay this conversation any longer. She needed to know the truth. After the conversation with Derek, she had conflicting feelings. She blamed her mother, feeling ashamed for her, but she was relieved that she hadn't turned to the authorities. Derek was trustworthy. He wouldn't reveal the truth. Elena loved her husband deeply, and Marina's birth brought them happiness, but death separated them prematurely. An unexpected illness, a cruel twist of fate. No one was to blame. Alexander had worked in hazardous conditions throughout his life, as finding work in the village was always challenging. It took a toll on his health, and he hoped the child wouldn't be born with health issues. Amanda got pregnant by accident and late. The couple prayed for the well-being of their future daughter, rejoicing in the birth of a healthy girl. But shortly before his death, he pleaded with her not to abandon Marina. Though she loved him, she couldn't forgive him during his illness. She never thought about it. She made a promise, but she had no intention of keeping it. Before continuing, I want to ask you to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. Thank you. A year later, Marina died in a simple accident. She was hit by a car. Elena wasn't particularly saddened by her sister's death. In her lifetime, the sister had caused her pain, and even death didn't absolve her of her guilt. Dealing with one child was difficult. Elena had promised her husband, but memories of the betrayal haunted her. Who could forgive such a thing? The day flashed in her memory. How could you? She opened the door, and there on the couch were Alexander and Marina. No. The word Elena escaped from the house. Her husband chased after her, trying to explain, but why bother? What could be understood? There was no need to escalate the scandal. The little daughter needed her father. Elena brought money into the family. She didn't work. The sister was pregnant. Don't judge Marina, Alexander pleaded. Elena demanded, don't even remind me. You'll die, and I'll take the girl, she promised. Amelia was tiny, slightly younger than Nastya. The two sisters could have grown up together, but impossible. The girl is the embodiment of my husband's betrayal. I don't need such a daughter, thought Elena. 3 months later, she took the baby to the orphanage. Are you sure you want to give her up? Asked the caretaker, but the woman didn't want to think about it. She tried to forget this story, and for many years, she didn't reminisce. Why did Nastya need this truth? But she wasn't accustomed to abandoning things. Midway, she went to her hometown. She didn't inform her mother. I need to talk to the janitor who cleaned the floors on the day of my delivery, Amanda said. She had been waiting for the hospital to open since morning. We have only one janitor, the receptionist replied. Check the floors, please. Nasta was unexpected for the woman. What do you want from me? Amelia asked. What do you want to talk to me about? She grew up in the orphanage, got a room after graduation, lived in poverty, and dreamed of becoming a doctor. I couldn't save up. I lived from paycheck to paycheck. I don't know who my parents are, Amelia replied. Questions about her father and mother sounded strange to her. Why does this woman care about my family? She thought but remained silent. Amanda spoke, and Amelia didn't believe. I think you're mistaken, she said when Amanda fell silent. And I think not, the woman replied. Let's check. Amelia refused. What's the point? She grew up. Her presumed parents were in the grave. Why dig up the past? She left the cafe and returned to the hospital. Amanda directed her until. Daughter, exclaimed Elena. The woman was greatly surprised by the unexpected visit. And who did you leave the baby with? Amanda silently walked into the house. She didn't know how to start the conversation with her mother. You look troubled. Has something happened? Yes, Amanda replied. We need to talk seriously. Elena paled. The woman's hands trembled. Why and for what? What will you say, Mom? Amanda asked. Elena didn't notice when her daughter fell silent. She didn't know what to answer. Confusion and emptiness in her mind. Nonsense. Why should she justify herself to anyone? Why should I say anything, daughter? Elena answered uncompromisingly. Amanda came and went. I won't leave it like this anyway, she thought to herself. Gradually, the woman began to get closer to Derek. The man often visited her, brought toys for her son, gifts. For the son from the terrace, she marveled, and he saw no reason to hide his feelings. The attitude towards Nastya had always been special. She decided on reciprocity, and not in vain. When Elena fell ill, Derek was the first to come to help. How bad is it? Amanda asked. The local rural doctor had a clear look. Mom needs to be taken to the city, her daughter said sternly. She understood that only this had a chance of salvation. Amelia glimpsed the young woman in the hospital. The janitor immediately recognized her mother. So she thought to herself, that's the woman who gave me up for adoption. She was angry, various thoughts flickering in her mind. This monster. When the woman was taken from the hospital, Amelia calmed down. She hoped she would never see her again. But it wasn't that simple. How much time do I have left, daughter? Elena asked. Tell me the truth. The woman had already forgotten about past grievances. It was no time for them. She felt unwell. Is there any hope for salvation? She continued to lie. Amanda didn't want to. The doctor's prognosis was grim, but one must fight. There's no time at all. For my little son, she reasoned. Derek reassured the woman. She's not to blame for the circumstances. It's the third operation in 6 months, exclaimed Amanda. The young woman was desperate. Every day, her mother begged to take her back to her hometown. What's the point of all these doctors and hospitals? She wondered. I'll die anyway. Take me and yourself to our homeland. Don't torment yourself, Mom, Amanda pleaded. She called several foreign clinics. They are ready to accept you. There's nothing more valuable than life, and there's enough money. I'll cover everything, she continued. The doctors approved the transportation. Amanda and Derek flew together with Alina. They spent 3 months abroad. I don't feel anything anymore, Alina complained. The woman was tired of surgeries and examinations. She longed for peace. You're getting better, Amanda rejoiced. The doctors gave a positive prognosis. Finally, the woman believed that her mother would be cured. During this time, Amanda didn't see her son. She had missed a little boy. Upon their return, she settled her mother with her. As expected, a caregiver arrived a week later, but Alina continued to yearn for her homeland. As soon as she strengthens, I'll take her immediately, Amanda promised, but I won't leave her without supervision. At least that's comforting, she thought to herself. Alina had time to reflect on other things. Memories from the past surfaced in her mind. Was she right back then? Did she have the right to send the girl to the orphanage? Does her husband condemn her? Is Sasha's illness a sign from above for that deed? These thoughts tormented the woman. She waited for her recovery. She wanted to talk to her soon. Every day she fell asleep with this thought. The days dragged on. There was nothing to do. Nastia, bring me yarn and knitting needles, Alina asked the woman. She was surprised by such a request. Her mother had never liked knitting. She didn't know how to sew at all. Out of boredom, her daughter replied with a smirk. Of course, I'll bring them in 2 days. Alina handed Nastia 2 pairs of baby boobies. Look at these, she said. Blue ones and other light blue ones for our boy. Tears ran down Nastia's cheeks. She had never seen her mother so touching and soulful. The conversation about Amelia naturally arose once she recovered. She would definitely go to her. Elena's decision was firm and clear. It pleased Nastia. Upon returning to her hometown, Amanda immediately went to the hospital. Invite Amelia to us, her mother requested. How could she refuse? Everything was settled. She still didn't work in the city. Amelia is no longer here, the woman at the reception said. Why? Amanda was surprised. Don't you know where she transferred? She didn't transfer anywhere. Amelia was used to trials. Life always threw new challenges at her. How could she not notice that car? The woman always crossed the road carefully. And suddenly, she found herself in the hospital. Familiar surroundings. Body ached. Lost consciousness. Didn't feel anything. Doctor, why? She asked. In response, she heard that the injuries were too serious. Why me? She asked herself. What did I do wrong? Amelia was on the edge. There was no one to help her. Can you give her address? Amanda asked. And why do you need it? The woman at the reception replied. Amanda briefly explained the situation. The woman handed her a piece of paper with the street name and house number. I'll open it now, a voice came from behind the door. Nastia had to knock for a long time. There was no answer. The neighbors were also absent. Amelia appeared at the door after a few minutes. You? She was surprised. We've already discussed everything. Why did you come? I want to help. I know what happened to you. Amanda invited Nastia inside. The woman realized that she could expect no more help. There are no relatives or close ones. Everyone had betrayed her. Who needs her as a colleague now? She doesn't even have a good wheelchair, the mother lamented. She feels guilty, Amanda replied. The woman drove Amelia to her mother's house. Come in, girls, Elena said. No kidding, Amelia couldn't bear to hear about the walk of her own legs. She didn't feel it. Chances of recovery are minimal. Elena apologized to the woman for her plans. She felt awkward for her words. A heart-to-heart conversation took place. Forgive me, dear, Elena pleaded. I didn't know what I was doing. Truly didn't know. No jealousy or anger. Tears flowed from her eyes at her husband's grave, and his daughter abandoned him to fate. I forgive, Amelia replied, but not from the heart. An unwanted colleague. How will she live on? Amanda was glad for her sister. She was ready to do anything for her. She took her to the graves of her father and mother. At least I'll see them in photos, Amelia said. It's time to get ready. Mom, the caregiver will come today, Amanda said. I don't need anyone, Elena waved her off. I'll manage myself. No, you won't. The young woman couldn't tolerate objections. Elena had to come to terms. The caregiver arrived, and they left to pack their things. Amelia didn't feel awkwardness. The main thing is to stand on her feet. She pondered to herself. If there's any chance, she clung to any opportunity, and Amanda was the only one. No, it's not greed, but common sense. It's hard to live. Without a family, you'll be left as a disabled person, and there's no one to lend a helping hand. It shouldn't be like this. Amanda negotiated with the best doctors. Amelia had to stand on her feet, she said. Derek agreed with her. Amelia hoped that Nastia's efforts wouldn't be in vain. The first results were visible a month after the surgery. Thank you. I wouldn't have had enough money to pay for the surgery and recovery. Amelia sincerely thanked Nastia. Such a sister is hard to find. You wanted to become a doctor, she reminded Amelia. The sister shared her plans with Nastia. The woman decided to buy her an apartment and pay for her education. It would be fair. Nastia felt like all trials were over. Step by step, she learned to walk again. The doctors said that in 6 months, she would stand on her feet. The problem came from an unexpected source. The nanny panicked and told Nastia that a woman was in the hospital. She rushed from work and came. What happened? Amanda asked. She worried about the child. Where's my baby? I don't know, the woman replied. I don't remember anything. My head hurts. The walk in the park ended in tragedy. Mrs. Vanessa woke up on the ground, and the stroller with the child was not nearby. The boy was kidnapped. With horror, she thought to herself. Bystanders called an ambulance. The woman called Nastia from the hospital. Maybe competitors, or the boy's father, she supposed. She had no strength and time to be angry with the nanny. What is she guilty of? She didn't expect this. Amanda called Derek. I'll take care of it, he replied. How could it be otherwise? The man turned the whole department upside down. A group of volunteers joined the police. Surveys of passers-by yielded no results. No one saw or heard anything. We need to check your ex, Derek said sternly. I'm sure he's behind this. Brian was a tough and cynical man. He loved money. His relationship with Nastia suited him, but pregnancy wasn't part of the plan. He left, and that's fine, but along with Nastia, he lost his cash cow. The money ran out. After a year, he didn't find a new milking cow. For several days, he tracked Vanessa. The woman walked with the child along the same route. The place was sparsely populated. He seized her and dragged her into the car. He folded the stroller and put it in the trunk. The deed is done. Now all that's left is to wait. Ransom. Look at the letter. Derek exclaimed at Nastia's apartment door. An envelope was attached to the paper, outlining the conditions in newspaper letters. Amanda was in shock. You were right. It's him. But what do we do now? The young woman couldn't find a place for herself. We can't send the money. No guarantee they won't demand more. Derek was confident in his correctness. He started searching for Brian. The man wasn't in his rented apartment. The landlady complained about non-payment. Evict the scoundrel, she said. Derek didn't know what to do. How could you get in touch with him? He asked Nastia. I don't know. Love is evil, she replied. She was shocked. How could he commit such an act? She didn't think he was capable of it. The search continued. The landlady allowed searching the entire apartment. After all, if the child went missing, what else to do? Derek took Brian's laptop with him. Dating sites, constant requests. What a nightmare, he reasoned. The social media page was open. The correspondence with a girl helped find answers to all the questions. He's with her, Derek exclaimed. The address was found through billing. The results came in half an hour. Derek immediately went to her. No one opened the door. We'll have to call a team, he said, but the break-in yielded nothing. Barbara was alone in the apartment. There were no traces of Brian and the child. Where's the child? The man asked sternly. I don't know, the girl replied. Maybe she's not involved. Derek shouted. Amanda couldn't go home. The situation hit rock bottom. If they don't find her son, she'll never forgive herself. Barbara left the house at midnight. She waited for a car near the entrance. Derek followed her. The path led out of town. The girl didn't expect surveillance. What right do you have to break into my house? Brian protested. The visit was unexpected. Barbara was shocked. Brian, they already came today, she said. So why didn't you tell me anything? He got angry. The baby, the traitorous baby, began to cry. Amanda rushed to the sound. Derek pinned Brian down. We'll sort it out at the station, he said angrily. The man lacked anger. How could such a thing be done? Derek couldn't wrap his head around it. Barbara dragged along with the man. She denied her involvement, but you can't argue with facts. You were caught red-handed. What's there to discuss? Derek was strict and angry. They drove to the police station in silence. Nastia had to sit next to Barbara. Derek prudently tied the girl's hands. Meet the culprits. The man pushed them with a caught red-handed envelope and a letter onto the investigator's table. Here's another one, he continued. Don't worry, they'll get what's coming to them, the investigator reassured. Derek looked at the baby warmly. Let's get married and adopt him, he suggested when they returned home. The man will be a good father. Amanda had no doubt about that. She accepted the proposal. Elena was happy for her daughter. You should have married Derek right away, she said. Such a guy. Good. Amanda had long thought about it. The time had come. It was just that Betty was not up to it now. It was a great honor for me. Amelia agreed to her sister's proposal. The baby evoked affection in her. And could it be otherwise? She loved her sister, forgave her mother sincerely and wholeheartedly. After Betty, Amanda proposed to her mother again. Move to the city. Okay, the woman agreed. Yours wants to die. I don't intend to. I'll live a little longer. But she returned to her native village after a month. No need for a caregiver, daughter, the woman said. It's pointless. I'll manage on my own. Amanda resigned. If she wants, let her live, she thought to herself. The mother visited every weekend. She brought her grandson. She sent money. And what else does she need for happiness? Nothing. She has health, lives on her native land, and everything is fine. Thanks for listening to the story to the end. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and watch the next videos.